The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Labor believes that there should be an inquiry into the Rural Broadband Initiative, and if there's anything that's come out of the debate tonight, then it's that this government doesn't listen and that minister doesn't listen. This minister pushes things through and ignores concerns. She has denied that this is a tax. It's clearly obvious that this is a tax on consumers and it's going to be imposed on consumers. She has refused to answer questions about the evidential basis behind the rural broadband scheme and whether it has actually delivered. She has refused point blank to provide any evidence to the House or in this debate, and she has refused, her ministry has not provided any information on this. Mr. Speaker, this is the debate that the opposition parties have had tonight. It begins the debate that should have been in a select committee tonight. It should have been in a select committee, that this should have been a first reading speech. If this had been a first reading speech, then the Labor Party would have supported it to first reading. The Labor Party would have supported it to first reading. It is a bill that is taken through under urgency through all its stages, with no opportunity for submitters to come before and for the members of a select committee to ask for evidence from all parts of the rural community. We've heard tonight from some of the industry players. We've heard from a major telco. We've heard from an industry association that represents the telecommunications industry, and we've heard from the organisation that represents the smaller wireless internet service providers, which are the ones that are coming up and the ones that are building strong community-based connectivity, which is not part of the Rural Broadband Initiative throughout New Zealand. Those are the organisations that should be being supported and nurtured, but the Rural Broadband Initiative does not do that. Mr. Speaker, the Rural Broadband Initiative has had no scrutiny, and the next part of the Rural Broadband Initiative will have no scrutiny as well, which is why we can't support it. If there was to be an inquiry, then we needed to take a principled view on this, and that is what we have done tonight. And Labor has taken a consistent, principled view on these issues consistently as we went into the election. We went into the election with policy that raised concerns about the Rural Broadband Initiative. We said that there had been ongoing concerns over a number of years that it was not delivering broadband to the tens of thousands of rural New Zealanders. We said that the existing scheme was inadequate for the needs of many of our rural communities. And while it was providing internet access via cell phone towers, and it was an improvement over dial-up, and there's no doubt about that, it is far short of the quality and speed provided to urban New Zealanders through the UFB and existing connections. This is not the step change, Mr. Speaker, that the government promised. The standard of rural broadband services has been woefully less than the step change that was promised. And we have taken a principled position on this, and we hold to that position. This issue is actually, it's not about telecommunications companies. It's not even about the instrument of the TDL as a levy. That is not what this debate is about. It's about what this government is doing without scrutiny, behind the cover of urgency, pushing legislation through that is actually expending $150 million of new money that is going to be paid for by industry but passed on to consumers, and I don't think anyone can argue about that tonight, and whether or not that is the right thing to do. And whether we've got through the stage, we've missed a stage in the process, and it's a critical stage. And we're the legislators who are making the decisions on these issues, and we've got to be accountable on them. So if you don't take a principled position on it, and you're allowing a piece of legislation to go through under urgency through all its stages that commits $150 million with no scrutiny, then I find that that the Labour Party thinks that's irresponsible, Mr. Speaker. In good conscience, we cannot vote for it because it hasn't gone through the right process. The Minister has not addressed the important questions that have been raised tonight. She has glossed over the issues. She has refused to answer questions around where the accountability lies on the Rural Broadband Initiative, and where the economic analysis sits for the next tranche of this program. Mr. Speaker, there are real New Zealand businesses that are investing heavily themselves without government or industry funded money through a levy. They are investing heavily in their local communities. They are based in places like Gore, in Owaka, in Timaru, in Ashburton, Culverden, Seddon, Richmond, Masterton, Napier, Palmerston North, Inglewood, Hamilton, Tauranga, Waiheke and Whangarei. And the email that my colleague from New Zealand First, Tracy Martin, read out earlier is that organisation that contacted us is the organisation that is only recently formed that represents those wireless internet service providers that are the quintessential essence of what innovation in rural New Zealand looks like. But they are struggling because they're doing it themselves. And this government has allowed a program to be developed under rural broadband, which A, has not delivered for consumers, but B, has provided the money to mainly big providers that have entrenched their status in rural New Zealand and have blocked many of those smaller companies coming through. We have no guarantees by passing this legislation tonight that those smaller companies are going to get a look in. And are going to be able to thrive, because that is the story. That is what we should be promoting here tonight. Is the progress of a piece of legislation that is going to nurture those sorts of businesses and allow communities to develop connection capability that actually suits their region and is not part of a one-size-fits-all structure, which is what this minister is proposing and what the previous Rural Broadband Initiative has done and has not delivered on. Labor can't support this bill tonight because we've taken a principled position. We are absolutely committed to rural connectivity. We are the party that took comprehensive policy into the last election. We are the party that works alongside rural New Zealand, rural communities. We are the party that knows how to do this well, rather than through the once-over lightly from the minister and what she's proposing to this House. We do not support this bill.